How does one minister or pastor in a largely multi-ethnic church? In my case, I feel I was uniquely prepared for this. I was a missionary in the Philippines for 10 years prior to becoming pastor of my former church. And my wife is a Lebanese Jamaican who immigrated to Canada in 1970. So I married into an Arab, Lebanese, Jamaican home, family. And then I got my 10 years experience overseas working with Filipinos. When my time in the Philippines came to an end and I began pastoring in Toronto, the church I went to was about 25 to 30% visible minorities at that time. Interestingly, many of them were Jamaicans. Some of them came from the Arab world, and there were quite a few Filipinos there as well. So that experience of marriage, the experience of ministry already, being able to speak Filipino, that I think uniquely gifted me and prepared me for that time there. During our time there, we saw the church grow from 400 to 1,200 people, from 25 to 35% visible minority to up to 75% visible minority within the life of the church. By the time I left the church, there were people from 70 different nations there. So there was that background of experience that God had given to me. I think there are a number of areas. I mean, not everyone is going to have that cross-cultural experience, be it through ministry or marriage, that I was privileged to have. But regardless of that, the bottom line is if you're going to minister in a major urban center in the United States or Canada today, you're probably going to have some kind of blending or mixing of ethnic groupings within the life of your church. Even a largely white church is not a unicultural church. You'd have people from different European nations in that church, and so therefore you would have a mix of cultures. But when you begin to blend people from different parts of the world, Asia, Africa, South America, Europe, then it really begins to take on a different flavor. And anyone ministering in a major urban center is going to face that challenge. So I think that there are a number of things that pastors need to prepare themselves for. First of all, I think missions courses at a seminary level are no longer an option for people if they're going to be pastoring in major urban centers. Missiology ought to be a part of the regular ongoing training of pastors today. And so I would encourage pastors or young men who are planning to go into the ministry that they need to be thinking cross-culturally, even if they're planning to stay at home to minister here. And so that'll, I think, determine the types of courses that they would take or what they would major in school. In terms of what happens at the actual church level, the local church level, and the kind of teaching that needs to be done, I think, first of all, I found the book of Acts to be very, very helpful. As I was trying to transition our church into a multicultural church, I looked at the demographic realities that surrounded the church, and I realized that the church could no longer stay where it was. It was predominantly a white church with, as I said, 25 to 35% visible minorities there. They were welcomed, but they were not embraced. There's a real difference. And so I felt I needed to teach the church that if we're going to reach this really multi-ethnic, multicultural community that surrounds us, we need to become a church that truly embraces people, regardless of what their backgrounds are. So walking my church through the book of Acts was an interesting teaching experience.